I'll get us started. Thanks everyone for joining from around the world. And I wanted to welcome you to the 6th AMEA AgTech webinar exchange with Arifu, which is a company that is providing training and remote training and coaching opportunities through SMS platforms through the use of a chatbot, as well as on Facebook and other platforms that Gloria will go into in some great detail to help farmers gain access to information to improve their best practices and livelihoods across Africa. To start, I'm Casey Harrison. I'm the Director of Livelihoods and Agribusiness at Nuru International. And Gloria Olembo is going to be presenting on behalf of Arifu and is the Partner Relations Associate there. This is our contact information, just in case you would like to get in touch with us. So as a brief introduction to, very brief introduction to AMEA, most of us on this call are members of AMEA, but also the AgTech Working Group. This is the list of our priorities for 2020. You'll also find, when the slides are shared out as part of that summary, a link to the first edition of the AgTech Guide, which is a document that profiles a number of interesting agricultural technologies for capacity development for farmer organizations. And we'll be conducting research into our second edition for the remainder of this year and into the first quarter of next year for a second edition to be published on the AMEA website in 2021. So the other priorities here are really to just continue to strengthen engagement across AMEA local networks with the use of accelerating technologies to help promote the professionalization of farmer organizations. And then last, as you see there in bold, these AgTech exchange webinars are a key feature of helping to build those types of partnerships, feedback loops, and opportunities for AMEA members and software developers, AgTech companies like Arifu, and the others that we've had the pleasure of presenting with over the last few months. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Gloria and thank her for the time that her and Arifu have put into creating this presentation. And I will now pass it to you, Gloria, and give you presenter rights to control the presentation.
Okay, thanks, Cassie.
Okay, you should have the ability to now share your screen, Gloria. And we can see it.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Gloria Olembo, and I'm the Partner Relations Associate at Arifu. So I'm going to be taking you through what Arifu does and what we hope to achieve. So Arifu is a social enterprise that was incorporated in Kenya in 2015, and our main purpose is to ensure that information is within the reach of everyone, especially those who are at the bottom of the pyramid. So how we do this is that we ensure that we use mobile chat applications such as SMS, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Telegram as well, just to ensure that we can reach as many learners as possible. And currently we are in 6 countries, that being Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Nigeria, and Zambia as well. So there are various challenges that our learners, especially farmers, have been facing. And one of them has been the lack of access to credible information because there's so much information that is out there that they're not sure which to take and which to leave out. So there's that, and then there's also inability to reach those who are in rural areas. So they are very far off, and because of that, they have connectivity issues, they have challenges with accessing resources, and they also have challenges with education, because most of the times we find that education is costly. And for our partners, the ones who we try to engage with, we realize that they also have a problem with engaging with these farmers who are in very rural areas, and because of this, they're not able to reach each and every one of them because of the distance issue. Something else that is also an issue with our partners is the fact that there's a high cost of in-person training. So training one person currently is usually about $10 to $20 per person in the field, but that is also costly if you're trying to reach a wide array of learners. And last but not least, there's also lack of real-time data analytics of progress of trainings or projects in the field. And this is something that we're also trying to assist with as Arifu. So the value proposition that Arifu has currently is that the information that you give these farmers or the learners in the field is personalized. What we mean by this is that we ensure that you carry out human-centered design research in the field, just to ensure that the information that you curate and the content that you create is something that resonates very well with the farmers. So we ensure that you carry out research, get the feedback. It of course entails a lot of mock testing before the actual content is created and digitized. It's also easy to use because the Arifu model is based around, let's say, the M-Pesa idea, meaning that anyone who's actually used M-Pesa is able to use Arifu as well. There are no technical issues involved. And last but not least, for the learners, the value proposition that we give is also that the information is free to them. So they do not need any internet or airtime to access this information. All they need is a feature phone or a smartphone, and they'll be able to begin learning. So for our partners, what we try and give them is that you try and ensure that you capture data for them. So we try and ensure that you get real-time data analytics that is captured through our partner dashboard, just so that they understand the progress of the trainings and everything that is happening during the project period. We also try and ensure that there's change in their behavior, so that these learners are able to adapt what they're learning from the Arifu chatbot and use them in their daily lives to make themselves self-sustainable and ensure that they also increase their yields. Something else we also give our partners is we try and ensure that we reach scale. So we try and reach as many people as possible, because when you're targeting a large group of people, it's very difficult to do in-person training. So that's where Arifu comes in to substitute the in-person training. So of course, being a digital solution, we do have some limitations with Arifu the bot, and one of them is the literacy level. So of course, not everyone is able to be onboarded because of them not understanding what they're supposed to do. Some of them probably don't know English or Kiswahili or the other languages that we use. So the opportunity we've seen in this is that we are trying to incorporate interactive voice response in the near future, just to ensure that we capture the illiterate people so that they're able to learn and that they're not left out in this process. Also, another challenge is on the onboarding process. Arifu currently is a B2B business. So our model is a B2B model where we rely on our partners to do the onboarding for us. So this has been a challenge, of course, because we haven't reached as many people as we hoped to in the past. But the opportunity we have seen with this is that we're trying to diversify the channels to assist in onboarding, so that as much as the partners are assisting us to onboard, we're also doing part of it on our end. And last but not least, we do have a language barrier. So what we have been doing in the past is that we've been translating into 2 main languages of each country. But we've realized that there's some people who, of course, don't speak those 2 languages, and because of that, they are left out and they're not able to get the benefits of going through the Arifu training. So what we've done is that we're also trying to diversify and include more languages. We have reached out to translators, and it is something that we have been incorporating in our processes in an ongoing manner. So for learners, as I had mentioned earlier, what happens is that as long as they have a feature phone or a smartphone, they're able to engage with the content. Of course, for the feature phones, they wouldn't need any internet or airtime, because all they need is to have the invitation message or the keywords that are required to begin learning. So for our partners, we do have 2 platforms that are available. We do have the Open Marketplace and we have the Arifu X. The Open Marketplace is open to all the users. So what this means is that any person who comes into the Arifu platform is able to see the wide array of content that is available. So they can move from one content to the next at their own leisure. Well, the Arifu X is different. In this sense, it is a white label product, and this means that the platform is actually locked. So this targets a specific group of people who then come into the platform, and all they can see is the content for that specific partner. So they won't be able to maneuver around the other content because it's locked specifically for them. So for our partners, so the partner journey, of course, depends on how soon we can get probably a partnership or a collaboration up and running. But ideally what happens is that once we identify the partner, or once we realize we have an interest in the objectives we have, we then create a partnership together. And from there, we move on to the content designing stage. So the content designing stage takes about 9 to 11 weeks. And the reason for this is because it's a very intense process that entails a lot of research in the field, just to find out the challenges and the biases that these learners have and what they hope to learn, and just to see what the gaps are. Based on that, we then begin to create the content. And upon creation of this content, you also have to do a few mock testings in the field, just to ensure that this information resonates with the farmers, with the learners, before we actually lock it in. Once we get feedback, we do the final iterations. And based on that, we then go ahead to digitize the content when the partners have agreed to it or have given us the go-ahead. From the content design stage, we go to the content delivery stage. So what this means is that the content that has been digitized is then unloaded onto the platform. Once it's unloaded onto the platform, we're then able to send invitation messages or outreach programs to these learners or farmers in the field. So once they get this information, they're able to come into the platform, and then that's when they begin learning. And the last stage is the data analytics stage. So once the farmers come into the platform and they begin interacting with our content, the partners are able to see what is the time. We do give them a partner dashboard that gives them all the information that is available regarding the particular progress of those trainings. So here is an example of what our partner dashboard looks like. And to begin with, of course, we try and ensure that you capture the information of the trainings as they happen. So the most important things that you capture are the number of learners who are coming into the content. This is, of course, captured on a daily basis, so the partner will be able to see this on their end. We also capture the active learners. So you're able to see how many learners or which learners in particular are actually engaging more with this content, which ones are dropping off, which ones are completing the trainings. All this information is available. Something else we also see is that the number of average messages pulled. So for each learner who interacts with the content, you'll be able to see them, let's say, for example, engaged with 5 messages or 10 messages or 50 messages, depending, but all this information, again, is captured. Something else you'll also be able to see is the costs. So for some of the costs, for example, the message costs, you'll be able to see that it's a drop-down costing, in the sense that the messages are only consumed as and when the learners actually take up this content. So if the learners, let's say, take 50 messages, you'll be able to see that trickle down to the messaging cost. Something else we also try and capture is the completion rates of the quizzes, because ideally what happens is that we insert quizzes into the content just to gauge the level of understanding of these farmers. And the best thing about it is you're able to see when they complete a training, and after the training, they also get certificates. So all this information is usually captured in the partner dashboard. So for the learners or the farmers, here's an example of the learner journey. So what happens is that they're going to receive an invitation message that has been sent from Arifu. Once they receive the invitation message, they then come into the content by them accepting to actually come into the content and begin the training. So once they're in the platform, they'll be able to see the number of topics that are available, and they can choose whichever topic they want to learn, and they can start interacting. After the topic is over, they're able to take a quiz. So the quiz, of course, as I mentioned earlier, is just to gauge the level of understanding, to see if they've actually understood what they've been learning and if there are things that can be done better. Once they complete the quiz, depending on the pass rate that has been set by the partners, they're able to get a completion certificate. This is usually sent as a link, which is then downloaded or downloadable for them to be able to print out. Another thing that you're also able to do is to carry out surveys, mobile-based surveys. So we're able to ask these learners information pertaining, let's say, things that the partner wants. So this could be maybe age, location, it could be challenges or something else that they might want to learn, we're able to capture that information. And based on that, we're also able to now probably include tools that increase engagement, like refer a friend and earn rewards, so that they're able to engage and also invite their peers to come in and learn from the content. From there, they're able to go back from the beginning and continue the training afresh. And the best thing about it is that they can always resume the training from where they left off. They don't have to start everything from scratch, as opposed to a USSD code where that normally happens. So we have a wide range of content available, and we are hoping to expand. Currently, we have content around poultry, dairy, livestock, potato, rice, and based on that, we're also expanding to include more content with our partners. So this is, of course, work in progress. So for the services that we offer, we do offer content creation, and as I said earlier, it's a very involving process, because you have to go to the field, you have to do a lot of research just to ensure that the content created is specific to the target audience. So it's not a one size fits all, but to ensure that it is relevant to the target audience as much as possible. We do have options of content licensing. So for content licensing, we the areas where we actually co-create content with our partners. And what this means is that we're able to license the content out to other partners as well. So where this happens, it's a revenue share model where they'll be able to receive some incentives from that as well. Something else we charge for, of course, is the platform access fees, and this will depend again if it's the open marketplace or if it's the Arifu X, which is the white label product. We do have the per learner fee, and this per learner fee is what enables each learner to come into the content and have access for a period of a year. So they can decide to go through the content today, 6 months later, they'll still be able to do the same as much as they want, as many times as they want. And we also have the messages. Currently, the online analytics that we give the partners for the partner dashboard is at no cost at all. So we take up those costs just to ensure that we give our partners the real-time data analytics for them to understand the progress of the project. We also incorporate reports, and amongst this, of course, you're able to do other services, including inclusion of rich media, depending on what the preferences of the partner are. So we have many partners in various fields, and these are the partners you're currently working with, and you have various projects cutting across youth entrepreneurship, farming, and most of them, of course, have been farming. So we have a lot of experience in farming because most of our partners have wanted to train farmers in the field. So that is where I think most of the learners that you actually have are coming from. So I gave an example of a case study that we have, and this was between Arifu and one of our financial institutions that we were carrying out a project with. This project was carried out in 2016, and the idea for this project was to digitize financial literacy training that was delivered through SMS. So the idea was just to ensure that there was the financial literacy training and also product training, because the main product was the Empower product, which was a loan product through mobile services. And the aim of the project, of course, was to test the effects of digital learning on behavior change, as well as check the uptake of mobile money after the training. And out of that training, we realized that because we did have to do a baseline research just to understand what the behavior of these customers were before taking up the training, we saw a 500% increase in savings deposits value, which was pretty high. Something else we also noted was the 700% increase in loan disbursements, because before they weren't taking loans, but after the training, they started to take more loans. And also those who took loans paid 9 days faster than they did before, which was a very good result for us. The second case study I'll be talking about is this project we undertook in 2016. with Syngenta, and the main purpose of the project was to digitize content on good agronomic practices and also include product training of Syngenta's inputs so that the farmers could understand what they needed to buy or to purchase to be able to see greater yields. So the main aim, of course, was to reach smallholder farmers and educate them on good agronomic practices and increase the adoption of the practices as well as uptake of the Syngenta input. And out of this project, we saw that there was a $187 increase per acre. So everyone who was farming was increasing the income by $187. We also realized there was a 55% increase in yields, and there was a 21 farmers improved the farming practices based on what they had been learning on the Arifu bot. So currently, as I had mentioned earlier, we are available in 6 countries and we're looking to expand. So we are currently in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Zambia, and Nigeria, and we've carried out and are continuing to carry out various projects across sectors in these countries. So our team is headed by 5 C-levels, and this includes the CEO, Craig Hensman. We do have Yvonne Goro, who's our Chief Operation Officer. We do have Mandeep Badi, who's the Chief Commercial Officer, Marisa Conway, the Chief Learning Officer, and Kathy Kayan, who's the Chief Technical Officer. So they're the ones who head the respective departments in Arifu, including the project management team, the tech team, the learning team, as well as BD team and finance. So I'd just like to take you through the process again, to clarify that, of course, this is the process, these are the timelines it takes. For content creation, of course, it's 9 to 11 weeks, that's the heavy lifting. But that once that is done, you're able to then disseminate information within a week or 2. And from there, we're able to track the progress of the training throughout the project period. So I'm just going to take you through a few demos before I open it up for questions. So this is a demo of the learning experience through an SMS-based platform. So anyone who has a feature phone will be able to get information in this manner. So this is just the flow and how it works. So for the learners or the farmers in the field, what they're going to be doing is that they're going to be responding with a number for the trainings that they want to engage with, and from there they're able to learn. So this is the flow, and this is how it works on the system. Okay, so you can see here there's a number 4/7. So I'll give an example. What this means is that it means that there are 7 messages, within that training. So they have to reach the 7th one to complete that particular training. And from there, they can now begin another topic. So I'll take you to the second demo, which is going to be on yes, so this second demo is on the WhatsApp, and what has been happening here is that we have included COVID information, especially because of this COVID period. We have incorporated COVID training into the WhatsApp menu and also incorporated images and videos just to ensure that the learners who are actually getting this content understand the context, they understand what is happening during this COVID time. Just understanding also the important aspects that need to be captured before carrying out businesses or taking care of themselves and their families. So this is just an example of some of the trainings that you've actually added into the bot for them to be able to undergo the COVID training. Thank you. So I'm going to be taking you through one last video. And this is going to be on one of our learners, and just to understand what they've been learning on Arifu and what their views are on learning through the mobile phone.
Kwa maziwa, niko na mbuzi wawili wa maziwa ambayo wamebeba saizi hawajaanza, na niko na shamba upande wa gari, wanalima mahindi na maharagwe na majani ya mahindi naleta nyumbani, niko na ng'ombe. Lakini sasa nimejua hata ng'ombe huwa anakula mahindi kama unakatakatia ng'ombe ambao anatoa maziwa. Nilikuwa nafanya farming. Sasa nimejua kufanya hiyo nzuri ya kufanya iwe portion moja unatenga itakuwa ya mahindi na ingine itakuwa ya maharagwe, itakuwa nzuri zaidi. Na nipitia kusoma hapa nilipata kwa kipiwa na baadaye sikutaka kusoma mambo ya ufugaji, nikitaka kusoma mambo ya ukulima, naweza daya saa 283 hash. Na mimi nikasema hatua tutajaribu. Nilipojaribu nikatumia somo. Nikasoma mbona hapa kuna mambo mazuri. Nikaanza kusoma, nikauliza unasoma unataka kusoma kuhusu nini? Nikaanzia na animals. Nilipoanzia na mifugo, nilipoona hii yaani isaidie kwa mifugo pekee yake, hata nisome chatbot ndio niweze wakati ninaenda kulima mambo ya kupanda na hifadhi mazao. Changamoto ilikuwa kubwa kwa sababu sikuwa najua kama kuna fertilizer imeundwa specifically ya mahindi ama cereals. Nilikuwa tunaenda na DAP na changanya na mchanga naweka kwa napanda mahindi, lakini sasa nimejua kuna yaramia cereals hiyo naweza panda na mahindi, lakini nilifurahi kwa sababu nilikuwa napata pesa kidogo. Lakini wakati nilifuatilia masomo, kaona kumbe hapa kuna pesa kwa maziwa. Nikasema kabla hiyo nyumba igrow ya maziwa yaanze kukua, ndio nianza hata tuweze kupata kitu cha kusaga nyama. Mimi nimeinuka kimaisha kwa sababu yenyewe mbele sikuwa na chochote kama machini. Nilikuwa nasikia kama kitu kiona kwa majirani, naona kama kitu kingine. Lakini sasa niko naye hiyo ni reality. Maziwa nakamua, watoto wangu wanakunywa na ninabakisha na budget. Kila pesa ambazo zinakuja na budget ni mwezi mzima. Ndio kwa hizi zingine zikuje tu tumepata.
Okay, thank you everyone. That was the end of the presentation. In case you need the link to the video, we'll be happy to share the same. It's available on YouTube as well. I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Really appreciate the time and effort put into the presentation. And I think the demos you shared were very interesting. It was exciting to see the use of visuals in the WhatsApp channel as well, using that medium. So I was very interested to see that, and I'm sure it got others excited as well. We have a number of questions in the chat box, and I will get to as many of them as I can. We have plenty of time, so I'll just help kind of facilitate that for you, Gloria. And then if anyone else has a question and wants to come off mute and just ask the question, please do feel free. And we'll make some space for those verbal questions as well. So Gloria, I'm going to get to a few of the kind of shorter questions, I think, first. From Fatima at Nuru, Kenya, which service provider do you work with in Kenya? Safaricom, Airtel, Telcom, all of the above?
Currently, we do work with Safaricom and Airtel, and we do have a few customers who are on Equitel as well.
Okay. Great. And Fatima, if you have any follow-up on that, please feel free. Another question that seems to be coming through in multiple spaces is really how Arifu monitors and measures the behavior change elements of the effectiveness of their system and the platform. So do you want to address that question, Gloria, in terms of maybe the case studies you've presented? How was behavior change measured? Were you measuring the adoption rates of different best practices? Were you really focused solely on yield improvement? How has Arifu addressed the effectiveness of the platform in creating behavior change?
Okay, so my research department, of course, is work in progress. So what we've been doing in the past and what you're currently doing is that we're working together with our partners just to have baseline researches of what's actually happening on the ground. Once we take up on the projects, we also ensure that there are touch points in between the project period to see if the learners or if the farmers are actually engaging or understanding this content. So we do look at the adoption rates, of course, and the yield improvement. Sometimes you have to go to the field and just to find out what improvements they've incurred since they started using Arifu. So we are using, it's actually a collaborative method, and we are yet to actually fully understand the impact, but it's something that we're working on. It's something that we have prioritized this year, but we have been working in collaboration with our partners to ensure that we carry out research on periodic manners and get this information.
Thanks, Gloria. Yeah, I'm sure participants here, and I know AMEA members would be very interested in any, even just promotional materials on how Arifu is addressing measurement, monitoring, and evaluation, and also how you see that working within a partnership. Because many of us have our own internal monitoring and evaluation objectives and systems, and so really understanding what is an ideal, partnership and how does that look from an Arifu perspective when it comes to M&E. But that's something we can always address in the survey if people have follow-up questions, as well as in some one-on-one conversations. I want to get to a few other questions. Another one that's very targeted and specific is from Simon, who's from Nigeria, actually. And he learned about Arifu, and he wants to know what projects have you supported in Nigeria, and what languages were used apart from English in those projects?
Okay, thanks for that question. So currently in Nigeria, we are live with a MasterCard project, and the purpose is to educate entrepreneurs on business skills and financial education. So the main mode of communication has been through Facebook. So we do have a Facebook bot that is available for that particular project. And in terms of the languages, we are currently using Pidgin. So that is something that you actually had to go to the field and get translators. We did research as well to ensure that the language that you were using was widely used in Nigeria. So currently it is in Pidgin, and we're also hoping to expand. So another project that you're also getting into Nigeria with is with Google for Farmers, but it is something that is a work in progress as well.
Okay, great. Do you know how many farmers you're working with in Nigeria under those projects at this time? Just an estimate.
Sorry, I didn't hear how many, sorry?
Farmers are in the MasterCard project and the other projects in total, if you know that off the top of your head. If not, we can always follow up later.
For the MasterCard, I know it's roughly about 5,000 to 10,000, but I'm not certain about the numbers, but it should be about 5,000 to 10,000 entrepreneurs.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gloria. That's clear.
Okay, thank you.
Another question from Brian Vianney at the IFC is, you mentioned the rewards as part of the learner journey. What type of rewards are given? How do you determine these rewards? And are there any extra or costs associated with those rewards?
Okay, so yes, we have been incorporating the reward system into the learning, and the main things that we've actually been incorporating are certificates. So we realized that the learners actually want to get certificates to show that they've actually learned something. So it's something that excites them. So we have incorporated that, and something else we have been using is airtime. So for example, a farmer probably refers someone else. Then we have maybe an incentive of them getting 10 or maybe $1 worth of airtime to be able to continue the learning and also just bring in other people into the training. So currently those are the two, but we're still exploring other modes of incentives to ensure that there's a high rate of engagement.
Thank you for that. Another question is related to the IVR feature from Dina Benet, which is, what's the timeline for incorporating IVR into the system, and when do you see that rolling out, maybe in the next year or so?
Okay, so we are hoping to incorporate IVR probably by the second quarter of next year. It is something that you've noticed has to be incorporated just to ensure that we capture the illiterate communities. But we are working on it because we also have to do a lot of testing. There's a lot of research involved in that, but we're hoping to actually have it up and running in Q2 next year.
Great, now that'll be exciting. For a lot of members here at AMEA as well.
Yeah.
So another question from Benjamin is related to data privacy and security. I think it's, this is a question we often ask on these webinars, especially because we're working in tech companies. And just generally, what measures does Arifu have in place, or policies or systems does the Arifu have in place to protect individual user rights and information in regards to the platform?
Okay, so we've been trying to protect the data in various ways. So the first one being, of course, we've incorporated messages where the learner, of course, has to give consent before they can start learning. So that's the initial message that is sent out. But what happens is that once they're on our system, we don't share this information with anyone, especially numbers. So what we've been doing is that we've been writing out reports or giving out evidence based on anonymized and aggregated data. So this means that you don't give them the numbers that can identify these learners. If the numbers are actually coming from, if I'd say the learners are coming from the partners, then it's different, because that means that these learners belong to the partner, and as such, we still don't share them. So we are very protective of the data, and we ensure we don't share them with anyone. And the only thing that we'd ensure that we put in place is that we have an anonymized and aggregated form, so that the numbers of these learners are not identified.
Great, thanks, Gloria. We have a few more questions coming in, and I know you've been answering questions for about 10 minutes now, so we'll take as many as we can until we get to the top of the hour. But also, Gloria, if you have anything else you want to share, do feel free to step in and share any other thoughts that the questions aren't addressing. But some of the other questions are, what types of challenges or barriers to the completion of the trainings and the quizzes has Arifu experienced and had to work around in your project? So in terms of, the farmer's willingness or ability to complete the trainings, where you see that sort of dropout rate, what has been driving that, and then how have you worked around that?
Okay, so currently, I think there's been an issue probably with engaging content. So in the past, you realize that you need to constantly do research just to ensure that the content is short enough for the farmers to understand. So we did a project before, but we realized that the issue was it was too long for them. They weren't able to complete because they were getting learner fatigue. So what we've tried to incorporate is just to ensure that the content or the trainings are short enough so that they can give the message that they're supposed to give, but also be effective enough to create the change that you're looking for.
And I have a follow-up question to that for myself. You mentioned in the learner journey from step 1 to step 2, the Arifu outreach, and I assume that this has to be, this is also, when the partner is involved, this is also partner outreach as well. So I wanted to know if you could maybe provide more context on what an ideal outreach at the start of a learner's journey looks like. So, you know, also thinking about the blended learning approaches. So really thinking through what it means to have that kind of learner to learner or face-to-face type interaction coupled with Arifu's program. Just maybe you could talk a little bit more about where that's been most effective in your experience, and how and why.
Okay, so we've tried to incorporate various ways just to ensure that the learners come in, because of course when you send out messages, the adoption rate is different. So you can send out maybe 100 messages, but you find out maybe 10% actually coming into the content. And the reason for this sometimes is because it depends with the brands or the organizations. For those farmers who resonate with certain brands, they're able to come in and learn. For others, I think they just ignore, maybe because they're not aware or sure of where the messages are coming from. So of course, what we've been trying to do with partners is to ensure that partners have marketing strategies. So this could include radio campaigns, posters, having the in-person trainers, actually giving them the codes to use, because actually that's a better option for us, because once they have these codes, they're able to engage with the training, and the adoption rate is actually higher because it's someone that they know, it's someone that they have been working with, so they're able to actually learn with this because there's that trust between them. So the main, I think for us, there's a project we did carry out recently, and we also sent out radio campaigns, and it was very effective because we got an adoption rate of about 70%, which is quite high. And it was because the radio campaign was done in the vernacular language, and you were targeting about 4,000 people. So they actually all came into the content because they'd been getting that advertisement for the entire week. So those two, I'd say, are the main key areas of getting traction.
No, that's helpful. Thank you. I have a question here also related to how much does it cost to partner with Arifu? And I'm sure that those costs are variable in terms of project size, number of farmers reached, content complexity, all of the various factors you laid out in your slide around partnerships. But maybe you could provide the group with sort of an indicative estimate of costs for a project. And then in partnership with from your experience.
Okay, so of course, as you've rightly said, it will depend on the project size and also the project needs. So if it's purely SMS based, the costs are going to differ from those that entail social media platforms. And the main costs, of course, are around, I think the heaviest costs are usually around the research component of it and content creation. So currently we charge content creation at $15,000, and that's because, of course, of the heavy research that is involved in the work, and that's the most heavy lifting that's done. And we also have content licensing, so this one is different because it means you're getting the content at a lower cost, but then of course the aim is the same, and you can also reach people as well. So there's that option of licensing the content for the period of the year. Another recurring cost, I'd say, would be the platform fees, because that's now the fee that we charge to ensure that the platform is up and running, it has the required content, that the data team is actually doing its work to make sure that the platform is live and active throughout the project period. And that would cost, of course, for the open marketplace, it's about $599. For the Arifu X, which is the white label product, it's $1499. For the platform fee, we charge it at $1 per person per year so that they're able to access the information for the whole year without incurring charges or additional charges. We also have the messaging cost, which again, this of course will vary from country to country depending on the rates you're getting from the aggregators. We have the reports, which again, also this varies depending on what kind of reports, because you have the impact reports, we have the final reports, which just capture the general data, and high-level reports as well. So all these ones are very different, but I'd say for a small project of about maybe 500 people, it would be probably around 15,000 to 20,000 for the project. But of course, what you realize is the more people you target or the more learners you have, the cheaper it actually becomes.
Yeah.
So I think that is a good thing to note as well.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Gloria. Thanks for that. And I have one follow-up question that just comes to mind, especially because, you know, one of AMEA's primary objectives and kind of goals is the cultivation of strong and kind of ready to go curricula for training pharma organizations. And so the question that comes to my mind is, if a partner already has a curriculum that they believe that they've been using and that the content is created, is that a type of partnership that Arifu still looks for partners for, if there's no need, if the partner doesn't feel there's a need for content creation, or is that more of a negotiation discussion?
Sorry, I'm not sure I got your question correctly. Kindly come again.
So if I'm a partner, potential partner, and I have a curriculum on poultry production that I feel is ready to go, and I don't need any research or content creation on that side, does that affect the pricing in terms of content creation from the Arifu perspective, or is that just the cost of converting it into the digital SMS kind of chatbot content?
It is going to vary in the sense that, of course, the research component part of it won't be there. So the costs will be low, but not significantly low, because there's still a lot of work involved with digitizing the content.
Great. No, thanks. I wanted to clarify that for everyone as well.
Okay.
So we have a few more questions, and we're almost at about 10 minutes left. So I want to make sure I get to these last few here. A lot of thanks coming through for you as well, Gloria, for all the hard work and for the demo. I think people are very appreciative. The questions are always a good sign that there's a lot of interest. So Felipe has a question, and it's related to if you could share any more or extra lessons learned from the case study on financial inclusion that you presented. Basically, any more insights in how Arifu content was shared, and how it helped farmers gain access to finance. If you have any other thoughts or experiences you wanted to share from that project, I think those would be welcome.
Okay, I think for the financial one, it was one of the very first projects we did with our partner Vodacom, and this was a project that was carried out in Tanzania. So we were just trying to understand the behavior change, if there's going to be a change in behavior based on what they were learning. So it was a very small subset of people that we actually did the project with, and we just did, I think the main purpose of the project was just to do a baseline and see how the uptake was. So because of the training and because of the understanding around financial literacy and the importance of taking loans and repaying these loans, then Vodacom actually saw an increase in activity between these farmers, and there was a better reception as to how they took loans and repaid the loans.
Okay, thanks, Gloria. I have one last question, and then we'll give you a break. So one of the things that comes through in your presentation is the effectiveness and, I think, just accessibility of the Arifu chatbot through feature phone SMS, as well as the other platforms you mentioned. So what other types of blended learning styles, so learner-to-learner exchanges, in-face and in-person learning, have been necessary or important to consider within a successful project? So to achieve success, what other blended learning styles have been effective in complementing the Arifu platform?
Okay, for that, I'd say the most effective has been the face-to-face training. So for learners who've actually gone through the face-to-face training with the trainers, they're able to engage with the content better and they're able to interact better. So I definitely say the face-to-face. So we also currently have a project we're carrying out with an organization called SOMO, and they train entrepreneurs on business skills and financial literacy. So what they've been doing is that they've actually been training them in class, and then they come into the content to either take the quizzes or redo the training sessions. And the adoption rate and the engagement has been quite high compared to other projects.
No, that's great, and I think that's certainly the type of knowledge management and knowledge information and sharing that is of interest to AMEA members for sure. As a group of organizations that focuses on capacity development, provides a lot of business skill training, and does a lot of that in person, I think what we're all looking for is an opportunity to reinforce best practices, new skills, knowledge, skills, attitudes in relation to behavior change. So it sounds like a really interesting project. Well, Gloria, I just want to say thank you for a wonderful presentation that was really clear and straightforward, as well as for the demos, which I think were really helpful in just visualizing how it would be to be a learner using the Arifu platform. I think you made a case for Arifu and the chatbot system being an important complement to any sort of capacity development activities. And thank you for taking so many questions over a 30-minute period. It was really helpful to learn from your experience. So on behalf of myself and everyone at AMEA, thank you very much. And then I'll allow you to say any parting words or any thoughts you want to share with the group before we close the webinar.
Okay, thank you so much, Cassie, for that. I think I just want to reiterate that we're also open to receiving partnerships or collaborations that involve probably content creation, because also looking to expand our content database. So based on that, I think thank you very much for me. And thank you, Cassie. Thank you, Felipe, for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I believe it was informative, and I look forward to working with you to make the lives of farmers better.
Thank you so much, Gloria. And thanks, everyone, for joining us. So at this stage in our webinars, we will go on mute for the next 5 minutes. If you're an active member in the AMEA AgTech working group, or you want to be, we welcome you to stay for the 30 minutes working group only, member only meeting that will start at the 10 o'clock hour on the Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all again for joining. Just a reminder, there will be a summary sent out by the AMEA coordination team, and that will include a survey that allows you to provide more feedback to Gloria and Arifu, as well as to ask any further questions that arise. So we really encourage you to fill that survey out after you've joined us today. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Cassie. Goodbye.
Bye, Gloria.